Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Alison McConnell and Tam McManus here with me in the studio. Delighted that you have joined us, and if you want to join the football family on a regular basis and receive all our updates, why not hit the subscribe button on the PLZ Soccer YouTube channel. If you want all the breaking news at your fingertips, you can download the PLZ Soccer app as well. Lots to talk about after a weekend of football Saturday and Sunday. Rangers drop points in the capital. Celtic move 13 points clear in the title race, and Aberdeen's losing run continues. Just a few of the main topics we'll be discussing on the programme, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Why not give us your thoughts on all things Scottish football? We'd love to hear from you, and thank you very much for joining us on the programme. And as ever, a big hello to Paul Brady, who's always first to join the show and participate. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. A couple of things I want to mention. First of all, Ruffy, we'll be on the way to our competition winner tomorrow. One person who shall remain nameless is the lucky winner of £1,000 in our £1,000 giveaway. What a brilliant start to the new year for someone.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think we all like to win things, whether it's a lottery or whatever, you know, but £1,000 is a lot of money at this time of the year, and I'm sure she'll be really looking forward to it.
Well, that rules out the guys now that Ruffy's revealed it's a woman. So many guys in houses up and down the country are just going to work and not bothering staying off tomorrow. So thanks for that, Ruffy. Well done. And that's just basically what the last 12 years has been all about, Alison. It totally is, isn't it? Tam again, putting the boot in. Have you ever won anything, Ali?
Nope.
No.
Nothing of note.
No. Ruffy?
No money, no, like a quiz or anything like that, no.
No, okay. Well, we're on the go tomorrow. We're going to film it. We're going to let you see the reaction of our lucky competition winner. And if you are a fan of any team in the Scottish Premiership, give us your thoughts on the weekend's results. Anyway, let's first of all have a look at the results over the weekend just to see exactly how it all unfolded. Celtic were 3-0 winners against St Mirren. Dundee United 0, Hearts 1. It was Kilmarnock 0, Ross County 1, St Johnstone 1, Dundee 3, Motherwell 2, Aberdeen 0, and Hibs 3, Rangers 3. And that's where we're going to start at Easter Road. It was a draw. Rangers dropped 2 points. What did you make of the game, Ruffy?
I thought it 2-0. I thought Rangers were going to continue where they left off. I thought it was going to be 3 or 4, but I think Hibs obviously got the goal at the right time. And it's not the first time when teams have sort of got at Rangers. I think Rangers are a very, very good side when they're winning comfortably. Players all love it. They all want the ball. They all want to prove how good they are. But when the chips are down, they seem to just lack a bit of fight, when the other team is having a go at them, and that's what Hibs did. They certainly got the goals, and they fought right until the end. And at the end, you have to say, although Rangers might want to complain about the penalty, we'll probably talk about that later on, but they've got to see the game out. Good teams see the games out, and to lose a goal at the end like that must have been soul-destroying.
Okay. Beg your pardon, let's cut to the chase. Was it a penalty?
Yeah, I thought it was, Peter. I think there's certain angles that you can look at that maybe you would think it was soft. I think the one directly behind them, which the Rangers fans are clinging on to, where it looks as if they've just came together. But the other angle, when it's side on, you can see an elbow going into the back of Josh Campbell, and it knocks him over before the contact with the ball and make Josh Campbell. So for me, it was a penalty, and I wasn't surprised it wasn't overturned. I thought it was a good decision, and the Rangers fans, the Rangers manager, not happy with it, but for me it was a penalty kick.
This is what Philippe Clement had to say about that decision.
It doesn't take away belief or confidence. Of course, everybody's down now because you want these 3 points. You give everything for that. They gave everything for that. To get that, they showed also a lot of good things, a lot of positives. So it's frustrating not to get the rewards that you deserve with the performance that they made today.
Ali, penalty?
I thought it was a clumsy tackle. I thought it was quite a tired tackle if you think about Hadji having not played much and then coming back into the team. I think, I think it's soft for me, but I think it is a penalty. As I say, I think it was clumsy rather than malicious. I don't think it's why Rangers lost the game. I think it was a pivotal moment in the game. I'm not sure it's why they drew the game and dropped points. But I just think you sensed a flipping of the atmosphere entirely within Easter Road at that moment. The momentum was always all with Hibs in a game where Rangers should have been cruising. 19 minutes in and the game was won. All they had to do was take control of it, close it down, and instead they allowed Hibs to come back into it, and I think that will be the biggest headache rather than whether or not you ruminate over a penalty call. It's what goes wrong that you concede 3 goals, what's gone wrong in the last 4 games that you've shipped 7 points.
Well, let's read out some of the points that have been made on our feed here. And one is from Minto. He says, never a penalty in a million years. Chris Black says 100% a penalty. And Tam mentioning the elbow in the back is spot on. John says Clement with his liturgy of excuses. He says he's a specialist in failure. Also, one here says Stonewall or more deflection. So you've got to listen to so many people's take on it. Stephen Watts says, Tam, what about the kick on Hadji? And PJ says, Clement coming out with the excuses again. His team never lose fairly. He needs to look at his own players, which again is what Alison's alluded to. Couple of things on that, Ruffy. Does Willie Collum need to address this immediately to nip it in the bud? I mean, I think that's one of the feelings that from the Rangers camp, they'll be interested to hear what he has to say on it. Is it a case that Philippe Clement is trying to deflect away from the deficiencies once again?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's obvious that, I mean, he's not the only one that does it. I mean, a lot of managers do that. They try to deflect, from a poor result rather than looking at the 90 minutes in full. I agree with Alison. I thought it was a clumsy challenge. I thought it was soft. But if I had been in the Hibs dugout, I'd be screaming for a penalty. And I'm sure if it had happened up on the other end in the Rangers box, they'd be screaming for a penalty as well. So, it just depends which way you see it. But I thought it was a clumsy but soft but a penalty. The thing I was interested about, that bit right at the end with Bushiri and Iggerman, I'd love to have known, because he had a chance to go down in the box, the Rangers forward, but he took the chance to take the shot. That if he'd have went down, that would have been similar to the penalty that Hibs got.
Yeah, I don't think I think the job here and in the job in whether you're in the newspapers or whether you're on broadcast television or indeed the radio, I don't think we take into account which side of the camp you're on. You just got to look at it in the cold light of day and say, is it a penalty? Whether you're a Rangers fan or a Hibs fan or whatever, if you're looking at that game, do you expect a penalty because his legs have become twisted in Campbell's?
Yeah, I thought Campbell done really well, Peter. I thought he got his body in between the ball and Hadji, and he invited the contact. He got the contact. I thought there was a kind of elbow into his back, and then it was coming together with the feet, and spot on. I thought it was clumsy, and I think it's a foul. Anywhere else in the park, obviously it's a penalty. It's in the penalty box. It's a penalty kick. So for me, I think if he didn't give the penalty initially, I don't think he would have changed it. It was one of the ones, Peter, because he gave the penalty straight away. I don't think there was enough to overturn it in terms of VAR. So I think the referee got that right.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, you know what I'm like, because of the nature of the game, and you like to scroll. I know you don't, Ali, but I do. You like to scroll through TikTok and various things like Instagram and I know you're a Twitter fan, right? But I scrolled through TikTok and there was a Rangers fan goes. He said, typical decision from Cardinal Beaton. And I thought to myself, the world's gone bananas, hasn't it? Honestly. I mean, it doesn't matter what end of the camp you're on. If you give a penalty against your team, you're getting labelled at the other end, and the referee... I wouldn't be a referee for all the tea in China, but he absolutely got it in the neck for it. I thought John Beaton called it right. Listen, we're going to get into the meat and bones of the positives and negatives within it, because regardless of the penalty, Rangers dropped 2 points when they should have been in a situation where they had a week where they could have been saying, listen, we've not only beaten the champions, You know, we've managed to win at a difficult place, and we've managed to keep that consistency that every sensible Rangers fan was looking and saying. And I think I've got to point this out, Ali. You interviewed Rangers fans outside Easter Road ahead of that game, and a lot of them were saying, listen, there's no point in beating Celtic unless you show the consistency. And some of them didn't mince their words on the fact that they were not fooled.
Yeah, a few of them, and that was before dropping points, as you say. A few of them were saying, you know, it's one big result. However, you've got to take it in the context of what's been served up this season. And I think that's the key to it. I think when you look at the performance yesterday afternoon, if you look at it across the festive period, Rangers have dropped 7 points. They've conceded 7 goals across their last 4 games. You can't be conceding 3 goals against Hibs. You can't concede 2 against Motherwell, against St Mirren, and then expect that one big performance against Celtic cures all ills. I think what they had to do on the back of beating Celtic was go and harness that energy of the performance and sustain it. It has to be done over a consistent basis. And that has been, I think, what you could argue essentially is that yesterday's game in Leith is their season in microcosm. It's just the story of the campaign, playing well in flashes, unable to sustain it over a long period of time.
Yeah.
We said it on the show on Friday, Peter, Rangers are 2 different teams. You know, at home they are very strong. You know, they've not dropped many points at home. Away from home they're dreadful, and his away record overall was so poor. And that if the axe does come on Philippe Clement, it'll be the away form. It won't be the home form. It'll be the away from home. They don't look equipped for the rough and tumble of away grounds, away performances. They seem to get physically.
Like you kind of think, like 2-0 up, Rangers were.
Yeah,
that
dominant.
game was on its way to 4-5 nothing. A comfortable win where you're barely breaking sweat. Hibs were all over the place defensively. Lewis Miller gave the ball away numerous times in that opening period. The amount of space that Rangers had to exploit, they were absolutely in cruise control. And then they gift a goal out of very, very little, and all of a sudden you can sense the unease. You get a sense of the frailty within the team when it gets to that kind of position.
Ruffy, they've only won 3 games away from home.
Yeah, I mean,
Dreadful.
that's damaging, you know, to any team. We've already discussed it. There is no consistency this year with them away from home particularly, you know, and you can't, you know, fudge that. It's there for everybody to see. It's there, the points that were up for grabs and the points that they've taken, you know, and it's damaging, and there's no way you're going to get through a season with that kind of form and expect to win the league. You know, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, before we hear from David Gray, and by the way, for the benefit of Hibs fans who watch the programme, we obviously will focus on a lot of the positives that came out of a good point for Hibernian as well, because sometimes you can get lost on the deficiencies of either Celtic or Rangers in a game and forget about the team that provided a 6-goal thriller and, of course, a lot of entertainment and positives themselves. So we're about to hear from David Gray, but from a positive point of view, as far as Rangers are concerned, they look as if they're getting someone who is coming to the boil nicely in Egerman.
Yeah, he was sensational yesterday, Peter. He's a kind of throwback to an old school striker where it's just ability. He can beat players, you know, he dribbles, you know, he can nutmeg people, and his finishing was tremendous. You know, the perfect hat-trick, left foot, right foot header, and if he'd have scored that one at the end, you know, probably one of the easiest chances he had. He'd done great to get by Bushiri, and then he just hits the post. If they'd done that, 4 goals at Easter Road, 4-3 win, they've been he's an absolute hero. But I think the Rangers fans will be delighted that finally they've got someone who they've bought young, they've bought potential, and they're now looking and going, we're going to get a few quid for him, and they'll get money for him, because I still think he's raw, I still think he's rough around the edges, but his ability, it's just his pure talent. I think he looks a great player.
Yeah. Let's not jump too early.
Try to sell him, but
let's not jump too early and try and get him punted out the door.
No,
For God's
I mean,
sake.
Rangers will be that's been a blueprint for Celtic. You know, signing young players from abroad and selling them on. Rangers have been unable to do that, and that's why that chasm between the two financially. But if Rangers can start getting players like that and sell them on for big money, then they can start reinvesting it again. So I think you're very excited if you're a Rangers supporter looking at him.
Yeah, 11 goals is a good return, Ali.
It's excellent. I think his Desser's got 12. I think he's just one less. And obviously he missed the opening months of the campaign. Yeah, I think he looks confident. I think in every time he has the ball, you're waiting on something happening. He looks like a player who can conjure something out of nothing, and he looks very reliable. When it comes to having a half chance, he looks more than capable of taking it.
Isn't it amazing how stats can totally and utterly, cloud an issue? Ali's, we just talked about the 11 goals, a good return. Dessers get 12 and they want him out the door.
Yeah, and the boy at Dundee United, he scored a few goals as well. I don't think he's the top goal scorer in the league, is he? So, yeah, I mean, the goals that he scored the other day, if you look at them, he took them well. They were not hard to take, but I think the Hibs defenders could have been a wee bit tighter, particularly in the third one, but he done well to manoeuvre himself into that space. I think time will tell on him. I mean, you can't take the goals that he scored away from him. But, I mean, there's a whole season to go. Let's see what happens in the end.
Yeah, give me your insight into, his headed goal was good.
No, the goalkeeper's got to do it. He's got a full hand to it. I think he actually did try to palm it out of the road, but it was just a weak hand.
Yeah, you're not having it?
No, I'm not having it. Or the third. We talk about it on Friday. See, when goalkeepers come off their line and come into a buck of players, you get hurt, and the other team scores.
Was that a ruck of players? Yeah.
It was a ruck.
Yeah.
It was a rugby ruck. I mean, you could see them all in there. Fantastic ball, and he must clip some ball in, Kieran, with the pace on it. And I don't know why Kelly decided to go and try and get that, because there was no way he was going to go over the players, his players and their players.
Yeah, okay. It's a good insight from you, Ruff. You always like to get your take on the goalkeeping aspect of it. So that's where Rangers are. It's a real, I don't know why anybody's even talking about it as a title race. Nobody in their right mind. Apart from the most ardent of Rangers fan, I think a lot of Rangers fans are looking and saying, okay, if you can look at the Celtic game in isolation before going into the Hibs game, they were well aware of their problems, but they wanted to enjoy the moment of beating Celtic, and they certainly didn't want to go a couple of days later and then be knocked flat in their back again.
Yeah, I just think it brings them back down to earth with quite a bump. But also, I think, I agree with you, I think even after not just the win on Thursday, but the manner of the win over Celtic, I think there would have been encouragement and optimism. I think there would have been very, very few people giving any credibility to a title race. I think the gap is just too big. I think Celtic are too far in front. However, what I do think that Rangers fans wanted to see was, can you consolidate this performance and replicate it every other week? Can you go and lay foundations to show that this is a team moving in the right direction, that Philippe Clement is taking this team where they need to get to? So what you wanted to see is, here are the shoots of what this long-term project that we've heard about from the beginning of the season. Here is some evidence of that project coming to fruition, and this gives you something that you can hang your hat on going into next season. I think the fact when it comes in and you drop points immediately after it, I think it looks like a game in isolation. I think it looks flimsy. I think it just looks like all the resources and energy went into one big game, but it's a marathon. You've got to be able to do that over the course of 9-10 months.
Is he under pressure, as Tam says once again?
Inevitably. I think it's unquestionable that he's under pressure, because you have to be able to... I think what the win over Celtic done was bought a little bit of time, but the minute that you see the same frailties, the same issues, the same problems recurring, you have to ask questions. You have to say, is it possible that there's a solution here? Yeah,
a little bit of time, 3 days, Ruffy.
It's not what he would have wanted, 2 away games, hard places to go. And if he doesn't win that one, again, we'll be back to, as Alison said, we'll be back to where we were, people doubting everything he says. So he just, where he was 2 months ago, he's just got to start winning games again.
What was his reaction when Hibs scored to level things? He threw his hat down, he had a hat on, and he threw the hat just in sheer frustration. And I think his body language and everything would tell you a different story maybe than what you always hear at a press conference when you've got a wee bit of time to decide what you would like to present. But I think he knows he's under pressure. I think it's any manager at Celtic or Rangers who's 11 points behind is under pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Must be a Belgian thing, Tam, because if you're more homegrown, you're watching the defence, you're going absolutely mental. Which brings me nicely on to, let's talk about the positives first of all. Here's David Gray on that 3-3 draw.
You certainly see that. That's something that you know, I joke with Boyle quite a lot, because when I joined the club, or sorry, when he joined the club, if you'd said to me that he's going to turn out going to be a Hibs captain one day, I'd have laughed at you, just because of the type of character he is, and that you won't take offence to that. That's just how he is. But he's someone that, in his performances over the years for this club, his efforts, he's matured into that role, and it was something that I spoke to him a lot at the start of the season about, you know, the next thing for him, which is to really show and lead by example, because of his level of performance, but also this character he is, and around the dressing room every single day, and really show that leadership skills, which I think you could clearly see today was there for everyone to see, which is great.
And he took his goal well.
Yeah, he was right back to his best, Martin Boyle. I thought that was the best I've seen Martin in a long time. I thought he looked sharp, he looked fit. Even 90 minutes gone, he was still, you know, nipping away at Rangers defenders, running in behind. I thought he had a great game, took his goals well. And he looked right back to his best, Peter. And I thought Hibs thoroughly deserved it. Second half performance was excellent. I think that's 6 games undefeated now, 4 wins, 2 draws, turning the corner now, Hibs. You know, getting back into the pack for the top 6. And I think if you're a Hibs supporter, you're looking at that second half performance and you're getting right behind the manager. You're Rocky Bushiri. You know, for me, you know, he's...
Hang fire, don't read all the script, by the way.
we'll talk about, we'll talk about Bushiri.
Are they top 6?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they are now. I think that Ruffy's right. I think the 2 Cadden brothers, superb again yesterday. They look more solid at the back. And, you know, Martin Boyle in there, if he plays like that, they'll start climbing the table.
Okay, now I'll let you go to I should actually I should have the script that way, Ali. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly why I said it, Ali. But the one thing I was going to say to you, quite simply, if I was David Gray, and it's a 3-3 draw, and they deserve all the credit. I thought they played some nice football, and you're right, the Cadden brothers, obviously, you know, fantastic. I'd be chapping the door and saying, look, I don't know what this, you know, white knights, black knights or whatever are going to offer us, but can you buy a couple of defenders and maybe another goalkeeper to put a bit of pressure on them, because if Hibs keep going with the defence, then I'm sorry, top 6 will be you will be coming in here in your usual roller coaster fashion all the way to the end of May.
Yeah, I think they do need strengthened at the back, Peter. There's no doubt about that. Rocky Bushiri, for me, is... Yeah, I think he's got massive character. You know, he's been slaughtered for Hibs supporters for a long time now. I think he's been playing well recently. You see, you know, he scores a goal, great header. He scored a great goal against Aberdeen. He's in there assisting. He never hides.
His layoff for Boyle was top drawer.
You know, great wee layoff. You know, so he's a good footballer, but he's got that mistake in him. And you've seen it at the end with Agamani. You know, he dallies on the ball at halfway line, and all his good work that he'd done all day would have been out the window if Agamani went through and scored there. So he's got that in him, but honestly, I can't fault him for his character. He's brave. He puts his head in where it could get hurt, and you know, he probably still split the Hibs support. A lot of Hibs fans like him. A lot of Hibs fans think he's a bit of a bomb scare, but for me, I would persevere with him at the minute, Peter, because I think he's playing well, and he just needs to cut out that mad, you know, 10 seconds he has in a game where he maybe sells a goal. But
can I ask you this? And Ruffy, I'll go to you first on it. Should David Gray be taking a leaf out of, for example, Brendan Rodgers' book, which is quite simply, he's 25 years of age. Can I work with him, make him a better player? David Gray was a good defender. Can I make him a better player? Can I maybe buy somebody of quality to play alongside him? And then, because Hibs in a 3, by the way, Mother of God Almighty, I thought Rangers were going to steamroller them because they were leaving gaps all over the place. Can he become a better player, or is he just the bomb scare that...
No, I think he's just the guy that he is. He gives you 100%, but as Tam said, he's got a mistake in him. That's why you need maybe a bit of experience beside him. Both good centre halves usually can feed off each other. They can read each other like a book. Maybe you need somebody like that. But it'd be interesting to see, because they've had the investment of, what was it, 6 million? It'd be interesting to see what kind of player does come in, because I'm sure we'd want maybe 2 or 3. But again, you know, I think they're top 6 as well, because on Friday we spoke about the inconsistency of everybody else, and you just have to look at the results for yesterday. The results are all over the place. Yeah. Nobody's got a run in them at all.
No, Chris Black says David Gray deserves huge credit, changed formation, and we've been excellent since. A lesser man would have hid away. He has fronted up with a lot of class and dignity. He's my gaffer.
3-5-2 has been pivotal, Peter, in turning it around. He definitely has changed formation. They're a wee bit more solid with the three at the back. Obviously, yesterday against Rangers, they were all over the place, but in general, they have looked more solid. And
can Lewis Miller become a better player?
I hope so. Yeah, he does infuriate at times. Sometimes you look at him and you go, he's got bombing forward, puts a ball, and you think he's not bad, and then he'll just pass the ball at the park. He's quite an infuriating player to watch. I'm sure for the Hibs fans as well, but. No, I'd rather be positive about Hibs. They're only 1 point off the top six now. They had a dreadful start to the season. Now 6 games, but undefeated. They've got a nice wee run of games coming up that they can pick up points as well. So I think the board deserve credit as well for sticking with the manager, Peter, because it would have been easier for them to.
They'll catch Aberdeen.
I think they're only 8 points behind them now, so it's not without. And they play Aberdeen.
Don't worry,
that was done and dusted.
Don't worry, we're coming to Aberdeen. We're coming to. Yeah, well done, Ruffy. Yeah, just give Aberdeen third place. Whatever that line from.
Oh, that's coming back to haunt me now. I think ever since I said it, they've not won a game, Peter. So I've probably hexed them. But no, listen, there's a few teams starting to make inroads in them in Aberdeen.
Just a point on it. If I'm saying Bushiri, somebody works with him, they can make him a better player. There's 2 elements to me that I find really infuriating about Lewis Miller, and while he doesn't want to comment on it because he's shirked responsibility on it, I will give you that he needs to work on his distribution, which I think is woeful. He also probably needs a bit of help from people coming short and showing. There was times when he launched the ball when really he put the whole team under pressure again by just giving the ball away. And then there are times where you see something in him, Ali. I think he needs work. I think he needs somebody to help him because I don't know if there is a footballer in there, but right now I think his distribution is the biggest problem that he has as well. Bushiri nearly gifted the whole game when he hesitated and allowed Eagleman to run away from him. But Miller at times just...
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think I thought he looked nervous in the opening stages of yesterday's game. I think positionally too, he was just getting dragged out of position a couple of times. I'm not sure if that was just the fact that Hibs were so open at the back with the back three. He did change it. He went back. He reverted to a back 5 to try and shore up quite a lot of the space. But yeah, I think as a whole, that back line all season has looked fragile. I think when anyone asks questions of it, it has looked particularly frail. So I think he is one of a number of players there that could do just with with a bit of coaching, with a bit of here's the elements you've got to work on. And I do wonder if maybe a more experienced head being in there and just offering a bit of guidance would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Is he a young guy, Tom? Is he? What age is he about?
Lewis Miller is...
No, Bushiri.
25 and Miller's 24. Listen, well done to Hibs. They played well. They deserve credit. It was a great game. Eagleman was standout head and shoulders for Rangers as well. But I think the general feeling out of it is, that they dropped 2 points and allowed Celtic at Celtic Park just to comfortably defeat St Mirren. Khun once again. Just a star man. Although, if you listen to Brendan Rodgers after the game, I don't think suddenly the news line changed away from Celtic being 3-0 winners over St Mirren to a line that Brendan Rodgers delivered on some of the Celtic fans singing. This is what he had to say on the chants for Kieran Tierney. There was a few things that I may have overheard at the end there. That's a total lack of respect. Greg Taylor, he's been absolutely amazing at this club. How does he feel? He nearly breaks his nose, bleeding for the club, for a cause. It's not very respectful. You sing for another player, no matter what Kieran's history is. I don't like that. This is obviously in reference to some of the Celtic fans singing Kieran Tierney's name. Now, he sometimes splits people's feelings on his ability, Greg Taylor, but Greg Taylor's a Scotland internationalist. If anything, I think the most critical point in Greg Taylor's season comes in Europe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think most of the supporters would see that he has a wee weakness there, but as far as pulling on that jersey, and as Brendan Rodgers says, is given 100%. He does, he gives you everything you want in our league. He's got bags of attacking ability. He scores goals. you can see he loves being at the club. You know, I'm surprised that Brendan came out of that, because it's the club that are putting it forward about Tierney. They want him. You know, and there's supposed to be negotiations with him. What's supporters supposed to do if they see the club's after a player that's in that position? You know, they're going to chant. I don't think that by chanting the name was anything against Greg Taylor. You know, they're just wanting a player back at the club.
Yeah. Well, they weren't shooting it down after the defeat to Rangers.
Yeah, I think there's almost a conflation of two different things going on. I think Celtic fans singing about Kieran Tierney isn't necessarily disrespectful for the player who's playing there, although I can understand why it would be interpreted that way. I think the rumours about Kieran Tierney going back to Celtic began in the summer. You know, it's not been a new story. It's a story that persistently refused to go away over a number of months. I think certainly from what you and I both, Peter, would be, you know, involved in chatting to people, we would believe it has a bit of substance to it. So, and I certainly think you know, both parties are keen to do that deal should everything around it be there. So I don't know.
What's the odds in a loan deal and a 3-year contract being announced shortly, Ali?
I'm not sure what the odds would be. However, I think what you would have, there's credibility to this story on both parts. So I think it's inevitable that Celtic fans are talking about it, are excited about it, when you add into the mix that Greg Taylor has been out of contract and hasn't signed a new contract and is in a position now where he can go and talk to other clubs. I don't necessarily think it's been disrespectful to him, but I can understand how awkward it must have felt for a player when that's all going on round about you. The other thing that Brendan referenced was the frustration of the Celtic support when the ball was passed back. There was a kind of groan that went round the stadium. I think Celtic fans have become incredibly carnaptious of late. I think it happens to all clubs that go through sustained periods of being incredibly successful. You look at Man United throughout
Arrogance, entitlement.
I think there's definitely an element of entitlement there. I think coming into that game in the back of a very sobering result at Ibrox, I think fuses were particularly short, but I think the Celtic fans as a whole have become incredibly entitled across recent seasons. If you look at where Celtic are, that was their first domestic defeat since March. They've already won the League Cup. They're well on their way to winning a title. They're 11 points clear, double figures of a lead at this point in the season. You take
13.
13, but 11 points going into yesterday's game in the aftermath of Ibrox. You go back 20 years, go back a bit more than that, and you tell Celtic fans, you know, here's what you're living with now. They would have thought they were in Valhalla. You know, it was unimaginable how it's turned around, and I think now there is a real entitlement at times among the sport.
Yeah, listen, if the Celtic fans knew a centre-half's name, they'd have been singing that as well, because I still think they're short in that department.
Yeah, they're not really tested against St Mirren, you know, at home. They're going to be sitting in and maybe playing one up front. You know, it's not the game's probably to judge Celtic defensively, but yeah, obviously Trusty come back into the team, gets a goal. You know, Scales, I'm not surprised they get dropped to a really poor game at Ibrox, but I just concur with everything that Alison said there about the Celtic supporters. You know, some of us grew up, I remember going to school, you know, from primary 2 to about 4th year, and Celtic never won a league. You know, so I remember, you know, and older Celtic supporters would remember the bad times when Rangers were dominant. So I feel as if, 20-25 minutes gone, it's 0-0, people are moaning, you know, at the game. Just get behind the team. You know, it's going to be difficult to break down a well-organised team. Sometimes it might take half an hour, 45, 60 minutes, and then the floodgates usually open towards the end. But I think you've got to trust the manager. You've got to trust the way they're playing. I think he knows what he's doing. And as I said, I think Alison just nailed it really about the Celtic supporters.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from on that, Tam. I live with a guy who's still a pal of mine, Martin, who came from Paisley, big Rangers fan, Ruffy, and we lived in a flat in Leith together, and Rangers were just absolutely dominant. So what Marty did is he decided to sleep in his McEwen's Lager Rangers top and then get up in the morning. And I think it was a 2-year period where he just smiled every day. And 2 out of the 9, and then he just used to text me all the time, how are you getting on, you know. And my nephew and I were faced with a dilemma. We should have kicked 11 daylights out of him when we had the chance. Marty, if you're there.
Well, I had a friend who had a season ticket at Celtic, and the years when everybody was coming to Parkhead and Celtic were winning 5-0, 4-0, 6-0, and he handed his season ticket in because there was no challenge. He was going along to games just bored. Bored
Yeah.
of winning 4-0 and 5-0.
Yeah.
So it just shows you how supporters can change.
Well, I was lucky when I was a kid, watching the games and going to the games as a teenager. It was great because, I know it sounds, and please forgive me, I know there's guys at 20, 25, 30 who just would say, oh, go in, geese peace, but I absolutely enjoyed the fact that Rangers and Celtic could go to Dundee United and Aberdeen and get absolutely pumped. It was fantastic, and you had good Hearts and Hibs sides. It was just a better time. It was, there was a bit of competition before, obviously, the real imbalance that came in with millions of pounds of money that was spent. But Aberdeen and Dundee United, great sides. It was just great. That's what I would love is a whole change in the league to give us 2 or 3. That's why it was great having Aberdeen at the start, Tam. You just want a third team. You want a third team, and you want to go to games not knowing what the outcome is. And you're right. That entitlement is, we're here, you better score 3 goals or we'll be hacked off with you. And they better be none conceded. And of course, when you get to a situation, I feel for Greg Taylor. I really do. He's a boy who's given his all. He's improved as a player, both under Brendan Rodgers
and he's actually come to the fore. He's quite a leader within that Celtic team across recent seasons. I think he's been fairly pivotal in terms of that and the success that Celtic have enjoyed. And I think there are certain players sometimes that you feel are just whipping boys at a club. There are certain players that you think the fans just don't ever fully get behind. And I think he has maybe been. There are aspects of his game that you can see, that people would highlight, particularly in a European stage, and indeed Brendan Rodgers spoke about that before in a European sense. But I think what he's done for Celtic and the kind of player he's been, he's surpassed all expectations from when he arrived at the club.
And he's seen off so many fullbacks coming in.
Yeah.
To take his place, and all of a sudden he's back in the game.
And Ruffy, by the way, just a word on Nicholas Khun. 16 goals, 27 appearances. He's been absolutely magnificent. I've spoke to Charlie Adam about him. I reckon Celtic could get about £180,000 for him in a transfer.
Yeah, I mean...
I miss Charlie. Charlie. We need to get Charlie back on.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as he tucks into that left foot, it's just, it's heading towards a goal, and he's just playing out his skin just now. I mean, it's amazing. Last year, a lot of the Celtic supporters that we're talking about wanted him at the door, but now he'll be an absolute hero because he's been up there. He's up there for the Player of the Year already.
Weird. I think players coming in January. I think it's hard for players to settle immediately. Some players do it. You look at Rio Hatate and Matt O'Reilly, who maybe came in and made an impact immediately and settled very quickly. But it's a tough thing to do. I think in January. I think once you get a proper pre-season and maybe just acclimatise to a new environment and a new league and the demands of a new league, I think you see the best of players. But I think we're guilty, very guilty, both as observers and as fans, of making very rash judgments on players.
Yeah, sometimes they need time. I mean, if suddenly Philippe Clement is adjudged to have been a good judge of Eagleman just needing time to get used to Scottish football. Boy, he's starting to look like a player for Rangers.
Where you come. Where did Khun come from again? What team did he come from? A lot of players come for play teams abroad and they're only playing in front of 15, 20, 25,000. And then you've got to go out there and produce the goods in front of 60,000. And a lot of people, for that, they can't handle. Some can better than others. So you've got to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah, well, listen, he's done really well. Rapid Vienna, he started off, obviously, Leipzig as well. He scored against Leipzig and he was at Ajax too. But listen, they've got a special player there. He's doing really well. And no doubt a lot of clubs will be looking at him, not only in this window, but the summer window as well. I always like to, as you know, Tam, read out positives and negatives. And thanks to Sam McGowan, who's basically said, I think we've heard this line before about the good old days. Yawn, yawn, yawn. Sorry, Sam. I really must apologise to you 100%. I'm really, really sorry about longing for a league that's not just won by one club for the next 32 years. It would be nice to have 3 or 4 competing. Rangers, as you mentioned, managed to stop the 10 in a row, but you want a league where you've got 3, 4 clubs. It would be absolutely brilliant, but I have to say, Ruffy, I don't think we're going to get that in the near future.
No, the way the financial outlook is. There's 2 clubs getting far too much money over all the other clubs, and it's very, very difficult to compete, because when that twists, when Rangers and Celtic come up against bigger teams, that's the first thing they hit us with. We can't compete with their teams, they've got too much money.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at the news and we'll be back with you.
Hi there, I'm Kerry, and here's your daily news update on Monday the 6th of January, brought to you by Arnold Clark Rewards. Buy a car, download the app and get rewarded. After yesterday's 3-3 draw with Hibernian, Rangers boss Philippe Clement maintains that Hibs being awarded their penalty was a key turning point in the game for the Edinburgh sides.
I'm confident if we don't get this penalty against, that Hibs don't come back into the game, because that momentum was for them really, really important to create belief in for them again. They have a really good period. They played really well last couple of weeks, but we really dominated this game, and they get a lot of belief out of this penalty.
As the January transfer window looms, Kelly boss Derek McInnes admits he and his staff will be busy, as his side have had to contest with various injuries so far this season.
I think we've missed Matty's creativity at times. We could do with getting Marley going and getting back to these levels, and if we can get some good news on Vass and good news on Innes, then it might not be as pressing to go and get somebody at the top end of the pitch. But if it is bad news on these boys, then the January window our focus might be on the front areas.
After yesterday's 2-0 defeat to Motherwell at Fir Park, Aberdeen are now 10 games without a win, and Jimmy Thelin has confirmed that Gavin Malloy and Esther Sockler will remain on the sidelines, as the aim is to now bring in some new faces within the January transfer window.
They're going to stay out for a long time, both of them. So we keep working with trying to improve the team and stabilise the squad, and working with the window is coming.
And finally, reports suggest that Preston winger Jep Ockels is set to join the Dons on loan till the end of the season, after spending time with Thelin at Elfsborg. For all the latest breaking headlines, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and don't forget to download our app, which is available on Google Play and the App Store.
Yeah, thanks to Kerry for the news headlines there. Thanks to Sam, who says, Peter, it wasn't meant to be nasty. Sam, never apologise for giving me a kick in the teeth. I mean, that's the nature of it, isn't it?
Keep slotting you.
Yeah. I'm quite fill your boots, Sam. I'm quite happy with you absolutely annihilating us. We actually definitely we love the opinions. Some will give you don't like, some you'll like, agree with. We've certainly pulled no punches when it comes to Hibs, Rangers, and of course Celtic today. And the clock is ticking, Ruffy, on Jimmy. If he was sitting there with the Aberdeen board at the moment, I think he should just be saying, I don't want to overcook this here, but I need 7 players.
Yes, and there was an Aberdeen supporter phoning me asking me if he's any connection with Tam at all. He's not a pal or anything like that, Tam's, is he? Because they generally get signed.
Yeah. I did actually send a reporter in the northeast, Kobe, a text basically saying, if Aberdeen drop into the Championship, Kobe, will you still work for us in the northeast? Because this is one heck of a slippery slope. And basically, let's be honest about it, Tam, teams are working them out. It's not exactly the fact that Jimmy Thelin has collapsed as a manager. They're working them out.
Yeah, I think he needs fresh blood in the team and the squad, Peter. And I think that they started well, a bit of momentum. I feel they're now levelling out. I feel at the start they were lucky with the kind of games they had to play at the start. They had a nice fixture list. Now they're struggling. 10 games without a win. I think they've got Hearts at home and Rangers away in the next 2 games. So it's 2 tough games. Hearts are picking up a wee bit as well. So yeah, I think once they get players in, they need to strengthen the back line. I don't think it was a red card yesterday that killed them at the start of the game. But yeah, they just need a result for somewhere. Because when you're on a long losing run, the confidence is getting sapped with the team. You can see that. and they need to pick up a win quickly.
Yeah. Another good thing about having so many people who listen to the show, watch it and comment as well is there's a certain kind of a camaraderie and care among people who batter each other non-stop on this feed. And Gary Connor says, Peter, as a humanitarian gesture, can you please have Kobe, your reporter, look in on Kaiser, who's a big Aberdeen fan, who we haven't heard from on here. And the other big worry for us, Ruffy, because obviously Tam, myself and Ali, who's obviously managed to get herself a get out of jail card, we are all going to be heading to Los Angeles at some time. I can't wait till you tell Fred. But nevertheless, we're all going to be heading there to Los Angeles, but we haven't heard from Kenny, the Dons fan, and I was really starting to worry whether Kenny was no longer with us. But he said, I'm fine. He said, I've been playing golf, watching the show a little later on or live. He says, hard going. Meetoff and Devlin have been fine. Funny, they've both come in free transfers. Malloy for 75 grand, good business, is not a starter yet. Rubizic is all over the place at times, and he said it was never a red card yesterday. You know, he's gone through everybody in the team. Mackenzie and McGrath are off the boil. Nielsen is a bomb scare, and Shinnie's legs have gone. That's and he's gone on to assess practically everybody in the team. But I think overall, from the positives of an unbelievable run, Ali, the rails have come off for Aberdeen, and I just think teams have played them once and thought, right, this is how we beat you now.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think there was some good fortune. They got a bit of the rub of the green when you think of some of those early results and wins. Maybe, you know, I'm thinking about that game at Dens Park where they get the late goal to win it. I think there were sometimes the momentum carried them through at points. Now I think they look like a team in freefall. They look as though they're bereft of any kind of confidence or belief. I think you can just sense the apprehension within the team. I think at one point, as Tam noticed, like this is the third spot looked like an absolute banker. You would have thought that not that the gap between Aberdeen and everyone else for third.
Slight mistake there.
Insurmountable.
You said as Tam knows. Tam doesn't know anything. This guy's the most erratic pundit in the whole of Scotland.
To be fair, I think we would all have agreed with him when you looked at where Aberdeen were, the distance between them and Hearts at that point, when you would have thought they might have been their nearest contenders to rival them for third, was just huge, absolutely massive.
They were top of the table at one point.
Top of the table, but that third place looked more than assured, and all of a sudden now you think
3 points from 30.
You can sense.
It's scary, isn't it?
3 draws and 7 defeats in the last 10 games.
Since you predicted it.
I think so.
Yeah, exactly, Ruffy. Something needs to change. I'll tell you, he needs more players in. He needs to change the side. He's managed to get a couple in. There was compliments about Keskinen. There was compliments about Nielsen. But it's now at the point where he needs far more to change that team, and it's been needing major surgery for a while. The only thing I was going to say to you is, obviously, let's hear both managers after the game.
The bit that I speak about is I think he gives you a threat playing between players and receiving the ball, but also think he gives you that threat with his pace. I think a lot of people just lean to the fact that he's got that pace, but very, very clever with his change of direction and how he handles the ball, and he's had a massive bearing in the game for us yet again today, and he needs to continue that because the sky starts to become the limit in my opinion if you can rack up the numbers along with the performances.
It's not super goals they score, you know, like we have to do better to try to deny them to score these goals they have against us the last games, and that's how you connect it inside the game. And so I think like we have a week now and keep believing what we're doing and try to improve this period.
Well, Mazwarisi, the way he dragged the ball down, what a goal for Motherwell.
Yeah, he looks a player. Obviously, you know, scoring a few goals for Motherwell, he looks clever. You know, he's got good pace as well, and took his goal well. Wilson obviously getting the first goal. I think the sending off kind of turned the game. I don't think it was a sending off. I thought Tony Watt, you know, got him sent off. Really,
Yeah.
I think it was.
Tony's one of those great players that if I was playing against him, I'd never get sick of fighting him. If you're going to get sent off, make sure you get sent off with a right good one.
Aye, he's. I think the big boy Rumours get sucked in, and Tony uses his experience to get him sent off. Let's put it that way.
Have you been eating soft pills today?
No, as I said, it wasn't a red card, and that changed the game. But you know, Motherwell just ticking along nicely. You know, obviously good result against Rangers, and picking up 3 points at the weekend. They're just ticking along, and Kettlewell's doing a decent job there.
Sent off? Should he have been?
I think when you put head to head, if the referee sees any forward movement at all, you're off. And I think there was a wee second movement of putting your head forward. But
Really?
yeah,
Ruffy?
I don't think he headbutted him, and he just sort of he moved his head a wee bit forward. You're going to put your head to. I mean, put it this way.
Oh,
If
Ruffy.
you're walking down Buchanan Street and two guys put their head to head, there's something going to happen. You don't just put your head against somebody for nothing, for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, but if you're walking down Buchanan Street and Rubišić puts his head towards you the way he put his head
Well, that's
towards
what I'm
Tony
saying.
Watt, you know, eventually they go, what are you doing? You know, here's a headbutt.
He did,
you know?
he did put his head in a forward movement.
Yeah, so
That's
send
a red
off.
card for me.
Yeah, red card. No, exactly. Alison is made of sterner stuff, by the
Alison was
way.
used to that in the house.
You're scandalous, by the way. Ali would never stick her head in Fred. He's a really good husband. So it says here on this piece of paper. Dundee United 0, Hearts 1. Honestly, see if you're a betting man, you couldn't bet. You know, from third downwards, surely. It's just mental, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so tight, Peter, now. You know, obviously Aberdeen started really well, but now they're all coming together in that kind of mid-section. I think St Johnstone, we're going to come on to, I think Goose is cooked. I think they're going to go down this season. But, you know, Hearts manage under a wee bit of pressure. I think when you look at, I looked at the league table last night when Critchley came in, and I think they're third or fourth. They've actually done okay since he's come in. But obviously Hearts want to be further up the table, but great result for them. Dundee United have been flying, and looking at the highlights, Peter, I thought that Hearts definitely deserved to win the game. I thought they had a lot of chances and thoroughly deserved the win, but great result for Hearts and a blow for Dundee United in the race for third.
Yeah, here's the two managers.
You know, we'll not be too downbeat. Obviously, we're always disappointed when we lose, but you know, given the run that the boys have been on, this is only our second defeat, I think, in 11 games. Still sitting third in the table. I think if you'd have offered that to anybody with a Dundee United connection away back at the start of the season, and you said, you know, early January we would be in the position that we're in, I think everybody would have snapped a hand off you for that. I just think, unfortunately, today the game came, you know, too soon for us after the big game on Thursday night.
We just want to keep performing like we did and today, and if we do that, then the results will take care of itself. I know the league's really tight, really, you know, quite close, congested from, you know, us up to, I think it's maybe 6, like you said. We've had an important couple of wins, but, you know, don't get too high when you win and don't get too down when you lose. We're going to Aberdeen next week, and that'll obviously be another tough game.
Yeah, I just had a wee look at the last 3 or 4 seasons in the league, Ali. 25 to 30 points, you're relegated. If you get 30 to 35 points, you're playoff candidates. And then 38 points, generally upwards of 38 points will save you. You're not in the playoff position. So if we look at that, Hearts probably need 5 wins, the odd draw, and they're safe.
I think Hearts will be safe at St Johnstone. I think it's a team that you would be really concerned about now. I think that's 8 points adrift at the bottom. I think Hearts will be fine. Ross County have had a fantastic run across the festive period.
If it's not Ross County, who is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Kilmarnock are in danger of being sucked in. But at the minute, I think St Johnstone's situation looks pretty perilous.
And the conundrum here, Ruffy, is who's going to spend the most money to get the players to change their fortunes?
Yeah, well, if you look at every club individually, we know at Ross County, the owner there, isn't he, short of bringing in 5 or 6 players in January. The other teams, the likes of Hearts, Hibs, they've all got money behind them. Kilmarnock as well, with the boy Bowie there. So the windows for me in January for the last 2 years has been no money involved. It's just been players on loan, on loan, on loan. So I think it depends on the contacts that these individual clubs have, you know, with the parentage thing that seems to be going on now, what kind of players they can attract in, or the quality they can attract in.
Yeah, Kilmarnock nil, Ross County 1. That's 3 consecutive away wins for the first time in the top flight in their history. Great credit to Don Cow. We'll hear from him after we hear from Derek McInnes.
I thought we missed Facility. For all the folk out there that can't see what's in front of them, we missed his leadership, we missed his strength, we missed his ability to get us out the pitch. So he gets re-scanned tomorrow, Innes will get scanned tomorrow, Matty Kennedy's going back down to London tomorrow. So we're hopeful we might have Liam Polworth or Rory McKenzie back for Wednesday's game. But it's just the way it is, and we have to cope with it. Sometimes it's the ability just to find a way to win.
Yeah, it's amazing how football changes very quickly. Everyone's spoken about that we're pretty solid away from at home and struggling away from home, and then all of a sudden you hit the purple patch that we're on. We'll not get carried away. We'll keep working hard, keep trying to improving, and keep trying to pick up points.
Yeah, this month in the transfer window, whatever business is done, it could be so crucial to, relegation playoff. St Johnstone gone. It was St Johnstone 1, Dundee 3. This is what Simo Valakari made of it all.
And admiration is the word that I would use, because I thought, to the letter, they carried out that game plan. But more than that, every ounce they put into that game, and I think you see that when you see the reception they get at the end from the fans. You see that synergy between the fans and the players, and that comes down to what they put into games for their club.
Our hardcore fans, voicing their opinion, and unfortunately I missed them, just the way, because I'm standing here for the good times, I'm standing here even more for the bad times, and I understanding, the frustration, local derby, and how we perform.
Yeah, the key to it all sometimes is if you've got a goal scorer who can get you away from the madness. You tipped Dundee to be heading downwards, Tam.
Yeah, it was a big result for them.
Simon Murray, he scored 13 goals, and he, for me, is one of the reasons why I don't see Dundee being in that playoff.
Yeah, it was a big result for Dundee. As I said, they've been quite flaky this season, but that was a massive result. You're right, Simon Murray, Palmer Holden, I think they've got goals in them. If they can strengthen the back line, and I think they'll be okay this season, but I think when you look at the way St Johnstone are trying to play now, they're more open and expansive. I don't know if I've got the players to play that way. They've got a massive window ahead. I don't know, the finances at St Johnstone, but they have got to go out and sign 6, 7, 8 players, and better than they've got now to try and stay up, because 8 points is a huge gap now.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of gossip over transfers, and we're going to keep you up to date. There is a constant thread across all our social media, especially on X as well. But if you want to hit the subscribe button, you can follow us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel as well. Gossip on transfers, deals that will be done as well. Here, our man Blair Malloy takes a look at what's being mooted at the moment.
Aberdeen are closing in on a deal to sign Preston North End winger Jep Oakles on loan. The 25-year-old worked previously with Don's boss Jimmy Thelin at Elfsborg. Celtic are stepping up their chase to re-sign Kieran Tierney from Arsenal, who is out of contract at the end of this year. Meanwhile, Stephen Welsh looks set for the exit door, heading to KV Mechelen in Belgium. Rangers are reportedly interested in a loan move for Marseille defender Bamou Maïta, but they face competition from Montpellier for his signature. And finally, former Gers midfielder Josh Windass could be in line for a shock move to Santos from Sheffield Wednesday. The 30-year-old could link up with former Ibrox manager Pedro Caixinha, who has taken over at the Brazilian outfit.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up as a boy, anybody who had a Santos top on was absolutely top drawer, and usually had a name Pele. But if Josh Windass joins Santos, that is magnificent. And that's what happens when you score from inside your own half.
Yeah, I saw that goal the other day there, but certainly if that comes off, well done to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just gossip, Ruffy, but it's well worth a shout, Ali. You never know, it could start out as a story and it just falls by the wayside. Anyway, here's the table in the Premier League. How's your team faring? Who's going down? St Johnstone, I'm sticking. Listen, Ruffy, I'm going to stick with Ross County in the playoff, and as I stick with Ross County in the playoff, I'm suggesting to you they will win the playoff again and stay in the league.
Yeah, well, I think we're all agreeing that St Johnstone, there's no way out for them, but there's a few, if Ross County keep picking up points, there's a few biggish clubs out there who will be panicking in this later third of the season. I mean, I know Dundee are winning, Kilmarnock, no strikers, you know, it's going to be interesting for the running.
Yeah, Vassell being injured is a big blow to them. He's absolutely a top drawer for them, holding that ball up, and of course he can score goals as well. It's been a good old day. It's unusual, Tam. You're not taking any flack because obviously Ali has just, well, she just delivers now. She's 2025 is Alison's
What's the word
year.
she came out with? I had no idea what it was.
Hey?
What was the word?
Carnaptious.
Carnaptious.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Irritable, cranky, irascible.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Short term.
If you look at all of those words that Ali has mentioned, it just says, see Alison McConnell. Simple as that. Ruffy is in for a tough time, suggesting that Alison sticks it in her husband. And apart from that, the mere fact that she said they were entitled, you're going to get pelters, by the way. Yet again, the witness protection programme for you, Ali, along with myself. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can watch the programme at any time. Sometimes we put it live so everybody can obviously, you know, have a right go at each other, which we enjoy as long as you keep it sensible and not abusive. So we're delighted that you can join us on the programme. There's lots of exciting things coming up this year on PLZ Soccer. I do hope you can hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Follow us across the social media. Our reporters are going to be out there giving you the interviews from the managers and players, previewing all the matches as well, and we've got some great one-to-ones and some new programmes that I think you are going to enjoy. So from Ruffy, Alison, Tam and myself, Peter Martin, thank you for listening and watching.